All right, so hear me out. I think we all know that we might be headed for a recession.
And you're not worried about a recession in 2026 for the US? You made that clear.
I think it could happen in 2026.
Bro's dropping 70 ball on the Honda.
I work at a dental office and people keep mass canceling their appointments.
Recession indicator I haven't seen anybody address is at the gym. It doesn't matter what time it is anymore. It's always busy. It's just busy.
Home prices are increasing faster than household income.
I think we can all feel it in our pockets. You know, despite the fact that statistically our nominal wages are higher than they have ever been, in theory, the cost of living has grown much more than those wages have. So why did movie theaters generate over $1 billion in domestic revenue in the month of May for the first time since the pandemic without even having a Marvel movie, let alone any major superhero movie? What we are going through is a K-shaped economy where the top of the K is growing because these are people that are really invested in big tech, in AI. These are growing industries. These people are making a lot of money. But these people are in a very small minority. The majority of people are on the downward part of the K. These are the people that I was just talking about in the introduction of this video. The people with, sure, higher than average nominal wages, but also a way higher cost of living, which means that their purchasing power is very limited. Yet for whatever reason, the movies that came out, Devil Wears Prada 2, Michael, Mortal Kombat, somewhat Mandalorian and Grogu, even though it has bombed, Obsession, Backrooms, Sheep Detectives, they have clicked really well with audiences. Audiences are going to see these movies and then going back to rewatch these movies, despite an economic downward spiral for the majority of people in this country. But this isn't really new. You can go back almost 100 years to the 1930s, around the time of the Great Depression, when Herbert Hoover was acting very similarly to Donald Trump right now. Hoover expressed a lot of optimism about the economy, said that all of the just negative thoughts about the economy were just fear-based rather than like actually based in reality. And what he did was set laws to keep nominal wages really high, despite the fact that the cost of items was lowering so much from deflation to the point where companies just needed to have mass layoffs because they could not afford to have all of these workers with high wages when their products cost so little, which led to the Great Depression, but movies still did well. Even though things started out pretty bad for theaters in the Depression, they had about 90 million people before the Depression, and then once that really started, it went all the way down to 60. They very quickly adapted. There were double features where it would be a kids movie and then a comedy. The types of movies that studios were producing were very different. They weren't making as many just like serious dramas. It was a lot more screwball comedies, fantasies, musicals, fantastic kids movies like Snow White. And something that theaters also did was they had things like you got a piece of china with your movie ticket. You entered a cash lottery with your movie ticket. And they did that to just keep people coming in the door, keep people trying to see movies. If you saw one movie every single week for 5 weeks, you could complete your set of china. That is how theaters stayed open. That is how the movie business kept churning. We're seeing kind of similar things from both the president, but then also the film industry. Trump is expressing a lot of optimism about the economy. He is saying that the economy is growing, that we're getting so many jobs from things like data centers, and that nominal wages are higher than they have ever been. He's not talking about the rising costs of living. So it seems like a lot of people are going to the theater for escapism like they did in the 30s. Because of the pandemic, because of the strikes in 2023, theaters were actually already prepared for this to happen in terms of providing a really solid value proposition for your average customer. AMC and Regal, the two biggest theater chains in the country aside from Cinemark, have their subscription services AMC A-List and Regal Unlimited, where with A-List, customers can pay somewhere between $20 and $28, depending on the state that they live in, a month, to see 4 movies a week with no added costs when you see it on a premium screen. Regal, on the other hand, has their Regal Unlimited, where you can see as many movies as you want on just regular standard 2D screens with a 50-cent upcharge if you get your ticket on the app versus in person. So this, I guess, kind of acts as the double feature of 2026, like what happened in the 1930s. They are still making money off of this because most people are not seeing enough movies to cost them that much of a loss, because they are making money in other places from those customers. So subscribers are more likely to get concessions because they are experiencing somewhat of a sunk cost fallacy, where it's like you've already spent this set amount of money on your subscription every single month. You're getting to go and see this movie for no or a smaller added cost outside of that. So you statistically will feel more comfortable to spend money on popcorn, on nachos, on a soda, on candy, on whatever you want to spend money on at the concession stand. Also, a lot of people want to bring their family, want to bring their friends, want to bring their significant other. And if you do that, that person might not be a subscriber, and then in that case, they have to pay the full cost of a ticket. The only people that are really causing a loss for these theaters are such a small group of people. And these are people that are seeing like a dozen movies a month, not buying any concessions, and not bringing anybody with them. I was once actually in that small group of people just a couple summers ago. I would get my candy from CVS. If I wanted candy, I would not get it at the movie theater because it was ridiculously expensive. I would go and max out the 3 movies a week at AMC, and I would also sometimes sneak into an additional movie after my A-list screening that I did not pay for at all. But for every one of people like me that summer, there are countless people who are not doing that. Because for your average person, the cost of just seeing 2 movies with your subscription a month is enough to make up for the average price of a ticket. These subscriptions are somewhere between $20 and $28, like I said. Movie tickets right now are about $15. In a lot of places, quite a bit more than $15. But the amount of money that theaters have to give studios is not that high. They are still taking in about 50% of that revenue. So if you're just seeing 2 movies a month, although you are saving money, the theater is still making money because they are maybe giving 20 of the $28 you pay to a studio. And then it's the profits from concessions, it's the profits from people that you bring that really raise the value of theaters and just keep their doors open, keep the lights on. Not to mention that theaters are also doing something kind of like what they did in the 30s with China, with these cash lotteries, by having so much merchandise, especially popcorn buckets. Popcorn buckets are becoming this eventized product. I mean, I remember the Dune popcorn bucket, which I did not buy, but I was so tempted to buy because it was marketed everywhere and it just felt like this cultural thing to have. And if you own a popcorn bucket, you own a piece of culture. And it is just a piece of plastic. It is not something that is that expensive for these movie theaters to make, but they charge like well over $30 for a lot of them. So they are bringing in a lot of money that way as well. There are just so many ways for theaters to make money while consumers still can, in theory, save money. You are getting an experience that, relative to the cost of other things, is also still worth it. And on top of all these structures that theaters have in place, the movies coming out right now are movies that, for the most part, audiences actually want to see. You have bigger budget ones like Michael that are giving Michael Jackson fans a positive movie about Michael Jackson. It's something that they have wanted for a really long time, because most of the press on Michael Jackson has rightfully, in my opinion, been negative. But for a lot of people, they disagree. Devil Wears Prada. There's been really nothing from Devil Wears Prada outside of a musical on the West End and Broadway ever since that first movie came out. To see Devil Wears Prada 2, that was a big event for a lot of people. It is not a movie that has been oversaturated in the market. Sure, you had a couple of movies that did not do too well, like Mortal Kombat and Mandalorian and Grogu, but they still have made over $100 million worldwide. And then you have these indie sensations for A24 and Focus Features that both, I believe, cost them $10 million a piece. Focus bought Obsession for $10 million, A24 produced Backrooms for $10 million, plus whatever the cost of marketing was, which probably wasn't much more than $10 million as well for both of them. And both these movies have already made a profit for the studios, despite not being out for too long. Obsession is a huge success because it is the first movie, I believe, since E.T. to go up in each of its consecutive second and third weekend, respectively. There's so much excitement for that movie because it is made by this filmmaker, Curry Barker, who is providing something new for audiences. There's so much good word of mouth, and he is also a filmmaker that is making a movie for Gen Z, for young people. He comes from YouTube. He had a really solid established fan base. People like the Filippo brothers and Chris Stuckman walked so Barker and King Parsons, and I guess you could also say Markiplier back in January, could run. Things are just looking really good right now. And I personally am so excited for the film industry. Hopefully this all wraps up pretty soon and things start to look better pretty soon, and more people will just want to go to the movies regularly, and it won't be just an industry that is profiting off of an economic downturn. Thank you all for making it to the end of the video. I really appreciate it. Please let me know in the comments down below your thoughts on all of this. I will see you all in the next one. Take care.